right, tonight I'm here with Trevor Polinsky. Once again, very happy to have you here, Trevor. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and give a little bit of context about yourself and your background for the listeners?
Hey, Sky. Thanks for having me back on the show. As far as giving the listeners some context about my background, I would love to direct them to the previous episode we recorded, I believe, right around this time last year. I believe we went into everything from developments in the cannabinoid sector to corruption in the medical industry, metallic alchemy practices, disruptive technologies such as free energy and anti-gravity, as well as radioactivity and particle physics theory. To summarize my history, I have experience in sourcing raw material, formulation, extraction, compound synthesis, and homogenization techniques for drug delivery systems such as liposomal nanoparticle solutions. I've also been extremely lucky enough to have traveled extensively. I've attended quite a few hemp expos, both nationally and internationally, where I've had a chance to speak to some individuals who used to work for the FDA and get a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, as far as how that organization operates. I got to witness Eric Dollard present his cosmic induction generator at the Alternative Energy Science Conference last year, and I attended the Tesla Tech conference a few months after that. I've been studying and practicing alchemy for close to 10 years now, and I've spent a lot of time analyzing different philosophic systems, which has recently brought me to Eastern Taoism, and I'm really excited to compare that system to Western Hermeticism today. In the last episode, I talked about my adventures with Warren of Evolved Alchemy and studying under Avery of Chemia Arts and Robert Bartlett of the Spagyricus Institute. As I'm giving credit to the individuals who have influenced me in my journey, the picture would not be complete without an honorable mention to T.J. Ticella. I met TJ in 2015, and he had been spending close to a decade already working on his system that he had coined biologic alchemy. And it was essentially a 13 chakra system that corresponded to specific geometries, color, sound, both frequency and phonetics, qigong poses, Mayan astrology, totem animals, meditation exercises, crystals, and shamanic drumming. And I began studying under TJ, and we would meet once a month for all weekend for close to 2 years. And each weekend we would focus on a specific chakra in his system. And what was really interesting about TJ's system was the way that he circulated energy through the body in a non-linear fashion. So a lot of people are familiar with Kundalini, which is energy rising up the spine. There's also Kunlun, known as the water path, and that's where you move the energy down your spine and up your front. But the unique nature of the path that TJ created with his 13 chakra system was very fascinating. So TJ's been a mentor of mine and still a good friend to this day. And during one of his classes, he said something to me that didn't really make any sense at the time. And that was that the days of our week are in the wrong order. And the more time I've spent studying different traditions and trying to understand ancient history, the more that's started to make sense. And I'm really excited to talk about that today. Hermeticism is a term for a philosophical system that is primarily based on the purported teachings of Hermes Trismegistus. These writings were known as the Hermetica and were produced between 300 BC and 1200 AD. Hermeticism was closely associated with the idea of divine wisdom revealed to ancient sages. An individual by the name of Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, who passed away in 1494, reconstructed this ancient theology by piecing together the teachings of other great sages of our history, such as Zoroaster, Orpheus, Pythagoras, Plato, the Chaldeans, and the Kabbalah. A huge part of the Hermetic philosophy revolves around something known as the Chaldean order. This is based on the Ptolemaic system of planetary spheres going from closest to Earth to farthest away. This results in the following order of Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Unfortunately, when Claudius Ptolemy took measurements of the planet's trajectory and velocities and used these calculations to determine the positions of the planets, he failed to consider that the Earth orbits the Sun rather than the other way around. This mistake destroyed our understanding of our solar system for almost 2,000 years and has created several bastardized forms of occult worship that are more of an egregore than an actual theosophical or astrological system. The planetary hours are an ancient system in which one of the 7 classical planets is given rulership over each day and various parts of the day. The classical planets are Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon, and they take rulership over the hours in this sequence. As each day is divided into 24 hours, the first hour of a day is ruled by the planet 3 places down in the Chaldean order from the planet ruling the first hour of the preceding day. For example, a day with its first hour ruled by the Sun, Sunday, is followed by a day with its first hour ruled by the Moon, Moon Day, followed by Mars, Tuesday, Mercury, Wednesday, Jupiter, Thursday, Venus, Friday, and Saturn, Saturday, again followed by Sunday, yielding the familiar names of the days of the week. Unfortunately, and this is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but the planetary hours and the Chaldean order are wrong. Their supposed order is impossible in nature. No matter what day of the year it is, Venus will never cross between Mercury and the Sun, which is stated as the official order in practically every cosmological diagram. Robert Flood's being referenced often. Many Kabbalists refuse to acknowledge this to this day or just dismiss it as a quote-unquote occult blind. So, as the geocentric model of our solar system incorrectly depicts the Sun orbiting the Earth, the heliocentric model accepts that the Earth and other planets orbit the Sun and not the other way around. Ironically, this correct heliocentric view was presented in 300 BC by Aristarchus of Samos, but did not receive any acceptance and rather was swept away in favor of Plato and Aristotle's incorrect geocentric universal view, although this model was mentioned by Pliny the Elder on occasion. The heliocentric model lay dormant until Nicholas Copernicus, who lived in 1473 to 1543 AD, revived the heliocentric model, but he was still met with disagreement from individuals like Robert Fludd, who lived in 1574 to 1637 AD, still preferred the geocentric model. Johannes Kepler, who lived in 1571 to 1630 AD, finally took Aristarchus's and Copernicus's findings to irrefutable proof when he invented a new type of telescope and published his laws on planetary motion. Despite Kepler's brilliance, his findings were still ignored by peers such as Galileo and Descartes, though Isaac Newton drew from Kepler's work and expanded upon it in his works on force-based theory of gravitation. In Hermeticism, all things living, known as the prima materia, can be divided into volatile or fixed. From a chemistry perspective, we know this to mean that which can be distilled and that which cannot. But from a more elemental understanding, we know the volatile to be the air and fiery essence of nature, while the fixed to be more earth and water. When we combine these elements in different orders, we arrive at the three principles. Earth and water give rise to salt, which is known as the body. Water and air produce mercury, which is known as the spirit. And air and fire create sulfur, which is known as the soul. It is through this lens that the majority of the Hermetic tradition and overall worldview is observed. Within this framework, they also believe there to be four realms or kingdoms of consciousness, which are animals, plants, minerals, and metals. By studying the Hindu chakra system and understanding its elemental correspondences, we can see how each element seems to have its own energy center that resides in a certain place within the body. The earth element resides in the root at the base of the spine and is ruled by Saturn. The water element resides in the sacral just below the navel and is ruled by Jupiter. The fire element resides in the solar plexus and is ruled by Mars. The air element resides in the heart and is ruled by Venus. The existence of a fifth hidden element is hinted at in certain texts, which would be known as the Akash or Aether and would reside in the throat while being ruled over by Mercury. Interestingly enough, the Taoist Wu Xing has 5 phases similar to Hermeticism's 4 elements, yet Taoism is distinctly different by foregoing the air element and including wood and metal along with the earth, water, and fire we have already seen. Hermeticism seems to do a great job at categorizing the elements of nature, but Taoism continues the expansion of the understanding of natural reality by mapping out not only nature's elemental phases, but also the forces of nature when these elements interact. The phases of the Wu Xing refer to a season as well as a planetary ruler for each element. Wood represents spring, which is ruled by Jupiter. Fire represents summer, which is ruled by Mars. Earth represents late summer, which is ruled by Saturn. Metal represents autumn, which is ruled by Venus. Water represents winter, which is ruled by Mercury. The energetic architecture of the Taoist elemental structural hierarchy is slightly different than the Hermeticists. Taoism places earth in the base, wood in the sacral, fire in the solar plexus, metal in the heart, water in the throat, and hints at the aether or akash residing in the third eye or crown. This is slightly different than the Hermetic model, which places water in the sacral and is ruled over by Jupiter, compared to the Taoist model, where water resides in the throat and is ruled over by the planet Mercury. So there are definitely some similarities, but the two systems are distinct as well. There is a practice known as Liu Zi Jue, which translates to 6 healing sounds and is a form of Qigong that coordinates movement and breathing patterns with specific sounds for all 5 energy centers, as well as the hidden 6th. The knowledge that these 6 healing sounds are to be performed in a specific order indicates an advanced knowledge of how to circulate subtle energy through the body via the meridians. One could hypothesize that the order through the 6 centers would create a natural ascension upward like the rod of Asclepius, but it doesn't. It actually seems to jump around randomly until you look at the order of the elements it's traveling through and you realize it creates a perfect Shang cycle, which means generation. There are 5 different possible cycles based on the individual elemental phases of the Wuxing. The Shang cycle is the only positive cycle, whereas the rest seem to have a more neutral or negative effect. Shang demonstrates the inter-promoting effect this generating cycle produces, sometimes referred to as creation. Synonyms for a Shang cycle would include generate, create, strengthen, grow, or promote. The Shang cycle looks like such. Wood feeds or fuels fire. Fire produces earth. Examples would be ash or lava. Earth bears metal. An example would be how geographical processes produce minerals. Metal collects water. An example would be water vapor condensing on metal. Water nourishes wood. An example would be how water delivers nutrients to plants and other changes in a forest. When the Shang cycle operates in the reverse order, it is known as a Shi or Zi cycle. Zi demonstrates the weakening effect this deficient cycle produces. Synonyms for the Zi cycle would include drain, diminish, or exhaust. If you look at the Zi cycle, it is the reverse order of the Shang cycle and goes like this. Wood drinks water. An example would be a tree's leaves absorbing rainwater. Water rusts metal. Metal impoverishes earth. Overmining of the earth's minerals would be an example of this. Earth smothers fire. An example of this would be dumping a bucket of dirt or sand on a campfire. Fire burns wood. Those are the outside circuits of the wuxing. Within the wuxing, there are another 3 cycles. The next phase would be the ke cycle. Ke demonstrates the interregulating effect this overcoming cycle produces. Synonyms for the ke cycle would include controls, restrains, fathers, overcomes, and regulates. The ke cycle would look like this. Wood parts or stabilizes earth. An example would be how roots of trees can separate dirt or prevent soil erosion. Earth contains or directs water. A dam or riverbank would be an example of this. Water dampens or regulates fire. Fire melts or refines and shapes metal. An example of this would be metal fabrication or blacksmithing and forging processes. Metal chops or carves wood. The Ke and Chang cycles actually function on the same pathway, but can have different effects depending on the level of force exerted from one element onto the next. A mild to moderate level of force results in a shaping or regulating effect known as the Ke cycle, whereas a severe level of force results in a more destructive effect known as the Chang cycle. If you sprinkle a couple of drops of water on a raging fire, it merely keeps the fire from spreading. But if you dump a bucket of water on a candle, there will not be any flame left. The volume of elemental phase present and the level of force incurred during the application determines whether the Ke or Chang cycle is activated. Chang demonstrates this overacting effect that the destructive cycle produces. Synonyms for the Chang cycle include restrict, overwhelm, dominate, and destroy. The Chang cycle looks like such. Wood depletes earth. An example would be depletion of nutrients in the soil, overfarming, or overcultivation. Earth obstructs water. Overdamming would be an example of this. Water extinguishes fire. Fire vaporizes metal. Metal overharvests wood. An example of this would be deforestation. The reverse of the Ke or Chang cycle is the Wu cycle. Wu demonstrates the counteracting effect that this resisting cycle produces. Synonyms for the Wu cycle include insult or harm. The Wu cycle would look like the following. Wood dulls metal. A chainsaw losing its edge while cutting down trees would be an example of this. Metal de-energizes fire. An example would be how metal can conduct and absorb heat. Fire evaporates water. Water muddies or destabilizes earth. Soil erosion would be an example of this. Earth rots wood. An example would be how overspilling soil on wood can decay and decompose or deteriorate the wood. The Gregorian calendar is the name of the timekeeping system used by the vast majority of the world today. It was introduced in 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII. Though this is the calendar we all follow today, in many ways it is actually inferior to other calendar systems developed by quote-unquote primitive cultures throughout history, such as the traditional Chinese calendar. Many people don't realize it, but the days of our week are representations of the celestial spheres we know to be the planets. Sunday for the sun, Monday for the moon, Tuesday for Mars, Wednesday for Mercury, Thursday for Jupiter, Friday for Venus, and Saturday for Saturn. Sunday for the sun, and Monday or Moon Day, as well as Saturday or Saturn's Day, are all fairly obvious. But some people might be wondering, what does the word Tuesday have to do with the planet Mars? Let's take a look at the deities present in a lot of different theosophical systems. For example, Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, Tyr was their Martian god. Tyr's Day, or Tuesday, is ruled by Mars. The Norse god of Mercury was Odin, and Odin's original name was Wodan. Wodan's day became Wednesday. Thor was the Norse representative of Jupiter, and Thor's day became Thursday. The Norse Venusian deity was known as Freyr or Freya, and Freya's day became Friday. There's deep meaning embedded in the days of our week that most people are not familiar with. This also translates to many languages, such as Spanish, for instance. The Spanish days of the week are titled lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves, viernes, sábado, and domingo. Luna means moon in Spanish, lunes being the day of the moon. Martes for Mars Day, miércoles for Mercury Day, jueves for Jupiter Day, viernes for Venus Day, so on and so forth. This next part may sound weird, but according to the Gregorian calendar, the days of our week actually appear to be in the wrong order. The traditional Chinese calendar, on the other hand, creates a perfect generating creation cycle that mirrors the Wuxing. The Gregorian order seems to be a complete disharmonic. It's almost as if we are existing in a static state between television stations. There is no correlation to the geocentric or heliocentric positions of the planets in the sky and the order of our days, nor is there a connection to a specific elemental flow cycle based on what the planets represent. When we map out the current order of the Gregorian week based on their elemental correspondences, it looks as such. When we examine the Wuxing and add the days of the week to their corresponding planetary values based on their elemental rulerships, we can see what cycles we are currently engaging in every day. I left Sunday and Monday out since the Taoist system explores the relationship between the classical planets omitting these two symbols. Tuesday, which is ruled by Mars and represented by the fire element, evaporates the water element, representing Mercury, which rules over Wednesday. Wednesday, which is ruled by Mercury and represented by the water element, nourishes the wood element, representing Jupiter, which rules over Thursday. Thursday, which is ruled by Jupiter and represented by the wood element, dulls the metal element, representing Venus, which rules over Friday. Friday, which is ruled by Venus and represented by the metal element, impoverishes the earth element, representing Saturn, which rules over Saturday. Saturday, which is ruled by Saturn and represented by the earth element, smothers the fire element, representing Mars, which rules over Tuesday. When we examine the elemental phase interactions of the structure of our week and how the symbolic names of our days influence each other, with the exception of Wednesday to Thursday, we are essentially stuck in an insulting or harming relationship known as a Wu cycle, or a draining and diminishing relationship known as a Z cycle between how our days feed into each other. The Taoist Chinese calendar, on the other hand, has vast logic in how it structures its week with the heavenly stems, each elemental day supporting the following day in a creation cycle known as Shang with its elemental relationship. When we compare the two orders, we can start to see how it's possible that the days of our week seem to be in the wrong order and could be restructured to have a more positive and generating effect on its participants. The traditional Chinese calendar week had 10 days, which they referred to as the heavenly stems. There was one Yang day and one Yin day per element. The first day, known as Jia, represents Yang wood. The second day, known as Yi, represents Yin wood. The third day, known as Bing, represents Yang fire. The fourth day, known as Ding, represents Yin fire. The fifth day, known as Wu, represents Yang earth. The sixth day, known as Ji, represents Yin earth. The seventh day, known as Gang, represents Yang metal. The eighth day, known as Shin, represents Yin metal. The ninth day, known as Ren, represents Yang water. The 10th day, known as Gui, represents Yin water. The Chinese calendar is based on the 10 heavenly stems and 12 earthly branches. The 10 heavenly stems are the names of the 10 days of the week, each of which correspond to a specific element and either yin or yang. There are 3 weeks per month in this system. These months are known as the 12 earthly branches and represent the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac. Each 10-day week represents a specific decan, which are 36 groups of stars used in ancient Egyptian astronomy to conveniently divide the 360-degree ecliptic into 36 parts of 10 degrees each. Every 10 days, a new decanic star group reappears in the eastern sky at dawn right before the sun rises, after a period of being obscured by the sun's light. The appearance of this new decan every 10 days is partially how the Chinese determined the week. The Chinese referred to each 10-day week as a shun. Once again, the elemental order of the days of the shun create a perfect Shang creation cycle circuit. Feng Shui, sometimes referred to as Chinese or Taoist geomancy, is an ancient traditional practice going back over 3,500 years, which claims to use energy forces to harmonize individuals with their surrounding environmental influences, whether these are places, people, or dates. This vast practice is very different from the contemporary Western understanding that could be more accurately described as interior design. Traditional feng shui is based on the elements of the wuxing and their Chinese zodiac animals, also known as the earthly branches. The Taoist earthly branches consist of the rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. Each of these animals consist of a yin or yang and an elemental correspondence. Rat corresponds to yang, water. Ox corresponds to yin, earth. Tiger corresponds to yang, wood. Rabbit corresponds to yin, wood. Dragon corresponds to yang, earth. Snake corresponds to yin, fire. Horse corresponds to yang, fire. Goat corresponds to yin, earth. Monkey corresponds to yang, metal. Rooster corresponds to yin, metal. Dog corresponds to yang, earth. And pig corresponds to yin, water. Each of these animal symbols also represent certain time periods, including specific years, months, days, and hours. 1984 was Year of the Rat, which also rules over the month of December and the hours of 11 p.m. through 1 a.m. 1985 was the Year of the Ox, which also rules over the month of January and the hours of 1 a.m. through 3 a.m. 1986 was the Year of the Tiger, which also rules over the month of February and the hours of 3 a.m. through 5 a.m. 1987 was the Year of the Rabbit, which also rules over the month of March and the hours of 5 a.m. through 7 a.m. 1988 was the Year of the Dragon, which also rules over the month of April and the hours of 7 a.m. through 9 a.m. 1989 was the Year of the Snake, which also rules over the month of May and the hours of 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. 1990 was the Year of the Horse, which also rules over the month of June and the hours of 11 a.m. through 1 p.m. 1991 was the Year of the Goat, which also rules over the month of July and the hours of 1 p.m. through 3 p.m. 1992 was the Year of the Monkey, which also rules over the month of August and the hours of 3 p.m. through 5 p.m. 1993 was the Year of the Rooster, which also rules over the month of September and the hours of 5 p.m. through 7 p.m. 1994 was the Year of the Dog, which also rules over the month of October and the hours of 5 p.m. through 7 p.m. 1995 was the Year of the Pig, which also rules over the month of November and the hours of 9 p.m. through 11 p.m. Each animal also connects to specific days, though they do not cycle evenly with their Gregorian calendar, so we've mapped out the current week. October 14th of 2022 is the Day of the Rat. October 15th of 2022 is the Day of the Ox. October 16th, 2022 is the Day of the Tiger. October 17th, 2022 is the Day of the Rabbit. October 18th, 2022 is the day of the dragon. October 19th, 2022 is the day of the snake. October 20th, 2022 is the day of the horse. October 21st, 2022 is the day of the goat. October 22nd, 2022 is the day of the monkey. October 23rd, 2022 is the day of the rooster. October 24th, 2022 is the day of the dog. And October 25th, 2022 is the day of the pig. When Confucius created this system, he also mapped out how well the different animals interact with each other, which can be incredibly useful information for matchmaking for either romantic or business partners. He divided the different types of interactions into best, good, neutral, bad, or worst. The purple lines on this graphic represent the best interactions between the different animal archetypes. Rats' best interactions are with monkeys and dragons. Ox's best interactions are with roosters and snakes. Tiger's best interactions are with dogs and horses. Rabbit's best interactions are with pigs and goats. Dragon's best interactions are with rats and monkeys. Snake's best interactions are with roosters and oxes. Horse's best interactions are with dogs and tigers. Goat's best interactions are with pigs and rabbits. Monkey's best interactions are with rats and dragons. Rooster's best interactions are with oxes and snakes. Dog's best interactions are with tigers and horses. Pigs' best interactions are with rabbits and goats. The blue lines on this graphic represent the good interactions between the different animal archetypes. Rat's good interaction is with ox. Ox's good interaction is with rat. Tiger's good interaction is with pig. Rabbit's good interaction is with dog. Dragon's good interaction is with rooster. Snake's good interaction is with monkey. Horse's good interaction is with goat. Goat's good interaction is with horse. Monkey's good interaction is with snake. Rooster's good interaction is with dragon. Dog's good interaction is with rabbit. Pig's good interaction is with tiger. The green lines on this graphic represent the neutral interactions between the different animal archetypes. Rat's neutral interactions are with pig and dog. Ox's neutral interactions are with tiger and rabbit. Tiger's neutral interactions are with ox and rabbit. Rabbit's neutral interactions are with tiger and ox. Dragon's neutral interactions are with snakes and horses. Snake's neutral interactions are with dragons and horses. Horse's neutral interactions are with snakes and dragons. Goat's neutral interactions are with monkeys and roosters. Monkey's neutral interactions are with goats and roosters. Rooster's neutral interactions are with monkeys and goats. Dog's neutral interactions are with pig and rat. Pig's neutral interactions are with rat and dog. The yellow lines on this graphic represent the bad interactions between the different animal archetypes. Rat's bad interaction is with horse. Ox's bad interaction is with goat. Tiger's bad interaction is with monkey. Rabbit's bad interaction is with rooster. Dragon's bad interaction is with dog. Snake's bad interaction is with pig. Horse's bad interaction is with rat. Goat's bad interaction is with ox. Monkey's bad interaction is with tiger. Rooster's bad interaction is with rabbit. Dog's bad interaction is with dragon. Pig's bad interaction is with snake. The red lines on this graphic represent the worst interactions between the animal archetypes. Rat's worst interaction is with goat. Ox's worst interaction is with horse. Tiger's worst interaction is with snake. Rabbit's worst interaction is with dragon. Snake's worst interaction is with tiger. Horse's worst interaction is with ox. Goat's worst interaction is with rat. Monkey's worst interaction is with pig. Rooster's worst interaction is with dog. Dog's worst interaction is with rooster. Pig's worst interaction is with monkey. Yin and yang are a concept that describes how obviously opposite or contrary forces may actually be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent in the natural world, and how they may give rise to each other as they interrelate to one another. In Chinese cosmology, the universe creates itself out of a primary chaos of material energy organized into the cycles of yin and yang and formed into objects and lives. Yin is the receptive and yang the active principle, seen in all forms of change and difference, such as the annual cycle, like winter and summer, the landscape, like north-facing shade and south-facing brightness, sexual coupling, like female and male, and socio-political history, like disorder and order. Yin and yang can be thought of as complementary rather than opposing forces that interact to form a dynamic system in which the whole is greater than the assembled parts. According to this philosophy, everything has both yin and yang aspects. For instance, shadow cannot exist without the light. Either of the two major aspects may manifest more strongly in a particular object depending on the criterion of the observation. The yin-yang shows a balance between two opposites with a portion of the opposite element in each section. There are various dynamics in Chinese cosmology. In the cosmology pertaining to yin and yang, the material energy which this universe has created itself out of is also referred to as qi. It is believed that the organization of qi in the cosmology of yin and yang have formed many things, including many natural dualities such as light and dark, expanding and contracting, and opening and closing. The organization of qi that yin-yang pertains to is very similar to the Hermetic concept of the prima materia. Prima materia is defined as the formless base of all matter, similar to chaos, quintessence, or aether. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth is one of the most notorious texts of the Hermetica and could potentially be considered the Bible of Hermeticism. The second verse in the Hermetica reads, "As above, so below, as within, so without." It's very interesting that this phrase could just as easily relate to the yin-yang symbol in Taoism. On some levels, it appears that the light cannot exist without the dark, and the contrast is what creates meaning. If you would like to figure out the Chinese animal for the day you were born, you can go to yourchineseastrology.com and click on calendar, where you can select the date to get to the heavenly stem and earthly branch for your birthday. The names will be given in Chinese, so we've given you another key here to translate your corresponding element and animal of your constitution. As we wrap up this first episode of Philosophic Productions, I sincerely hope the viewers enjoyed the content we presented today and that it inspires some meaningful conversations about the topics we discussed. We have plenty more subject matter mapped out that we would love to bring to light, so the more interest expressed by everyone watching is going to make working on these projects so much more worthwhile. Wishing everyone a safe and healthy rest of 2022 and hoping this has inspired people to continue asking questions about the structure of our reality as we know it.